Very much for being here.
Pleasure to be with you, Liz.
So let's get started by talking a little bit about the primary. I've heard a lot from you regarding Chuck Schumer, who is your ultimate target, but not a lot from you regarding Jay Townsend, who's your primary opponent. And I just want to read you something that he said to me in an earlier interview this week, okay? He talked about you running on the taxpayer line, an independent line created by Carl Palladino, and he said, "It seems to me now that he wants to change the rules, now that he fell short of the conservative convention." What's your response to that?
Well, I teamed up with Carl Palladino to form the taxpayer line. It wasn't just Carl Palladino, it was Palladino and myself. I thought that it would be helpful to give individuals another place to vote. People that maybe felt that they didn't want to vote on the Republican line for independence, for instance, and some disaffected conservatives wanted a place to vote. And so I decided to proceed forward with that, and we've gotten plenty of signatures, and that will be a line on the ballot.
Now, State Conservative Party Chairman Mike Long, however, is a little bit upset about this. I mean, the idea here is that if the taxpayers line siphons off support from his line, it could end up killing the Conservative Party.
Wouldn't that be a shame?
Apparently you don't think so.
No, look, the Conservative Party didn't choose a full array of conservatives across the state in lots of different places, in some congressional races and in some of the races that, the statewide races. I'm probably the most conservative man running in New York State. I didn't get their nomination. I was only in about a week or to 10 days before that convention. Mr. Long held all the proxies in his pocket, decided that he was going to nominate his friend Jay Townsend. And unfortunately, if that line does poorly, Mr. Long will be out of business after this year. And I suspect that the taxpayer line is going to be viewed by most people as, sort of the real conservative line, in New York State. Those that are on it are for smaller government, lower taxes. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-Second Amendment. You don't get more conservative than that.
Certainly not, actually. Do you support Carl Palladino for governor, then?
I don't support any other candidate. I'm not, getting between those individuals who are running for governor. I know there's Rick Lazio and there's Carl Palladino. They're both, fine men. They're going to fight it out, and we'll see whoever wins the Republican nomination is who I'll be supporting.
But, Mr. Berntsen, you are getting involved in some primaries, correct? Because you have endorsed Chris Cox, the son of the state GOP chairman Ed Cox, in the first congressional race, which is kind of interesting because you yourself were actually at one time running in that race. Why did you decide to do that?
I've known Chris a couple of years, actually. We were in the McCain campaign together. He was the executive director, and I was the Veterans Coalition leader for the state of New York. After I left CD1 and entered and won the Senate designation for the Republican Party, I thought about nominating him back then. I waited a bit and nominated him, but we've been friends for a number of years. I think he's a good candidate. There's other candidates around the state that I support who are in primary battles, people like York Kleinhandler up in the 17th, I believe he's in. He's a former Special Forces CW4, who's a very, very fine guy. I support him. And there's others around the state that are in primary battles that, because of my personal relationships with them, because of their service to the country, I've decided to support them.
It's actually interesting because there's a lot of connections between yourself and Chris Cox, not the least of which is David Polyansky. He's your consultant still, is that correct?
Of course, yeah, he is my consultant. He actually ran the Huckabee presidential campaign.
Right, and he's now working for the state Republican Party as their political director, I believe. That is interesting that he's doing this dual role between your campaign and also the state party. Is that not a conflict of interest?
I don't think so. He was my campaign consultant. Actually, I came to know Mr. Polyansky through Ed Rollins, who ran the Reagan campaigns, and was was Ronald Reagan's campaign chairman back in 1984. I met with Ed Rollins when I decided to run. Rollins recommended Polyansky. Polyansky did a very good job in a very short period of time. He helped me win the Republican designation, and the Republican Party approached him and said if he would work with them. Mr. Polyansky asked me if that was okay, if he could work with them as well, and I said I had no problem. He could serve in both roles. And David Polyansky is a lawyer. He's a former United States Marine. He went back and fought in Iraq in 2005, 2006 after being out of the Marine Corps for 10 years. He is a great American, and I'm happy to have him, and I'm glad the Republican Party's got him.
Is he being paid by both your campaign and the state party, do you know?
He's being paid by me. I don't know what he's being paid by the campaign, by the Republicans, and I'm not sure about his relationship with the Republican Party. I haven't looked at his contract, but I've got a contract with him. I pay him.
So, you know, there's been a lot of, sort of speculation about all these ties between Chris Cox and Steve Levy, the Suffolk County chairman, John J. Laval, and the state GOP chairman, and all of this sort of swirling stuff around there. Can you tell me, was there any, I don't know, was the fix-in any way, shape, or form that connected you to your decision to, sort of late decision to get into the Senate race? I know you're laughing. I got to ask you that.
And successful.
You did. You
successful
were quite
departure
successful
from that race. But let me say this. When I went out into the first, and I was running in the 1st District. When I was running in the 1st District, the Tea Party movement, the Conservative Society for Action asked me to run for the Senate. The 9/12 organization asked me to run for the Senate. The Conservative Party asked me to run for the Senate, and so did John J. Laval. So they all were pointing me toward the Senate. I was in that mixing bowl out there for a while, and I decided that I would jump to the Senate seat. There was never a deal cut. I was on my own. I approached Chairman Cox and said, I'm going to switch and jump into the race. And he said, well, you know, you're on your own. You do that. I said, no problem. I intend to go in, and I intend to win. And we did. And I'm here now, and I intend to defeat Mr. Townsend in the primary, and I will defeat Chuck Schumer in the fall.
So no deal in any way, shape, or form between yourself and the state chairman?
None,
okay.
No, not deal. But I'll say this. You know, I respect Chairman Cox. He's a friend of mine. I was with him in the McCain campaign as well, as were a number of people around the state who were working with me and supporting me in different parts of the state. But there was never any deal. I'm not getting any support, financial support from the Republican Party yet.